solve your long-term retention problem. But they're two totally different models, both from just a technology point of view, but a cost model point of view. Any thoughts on the comparison between tape and cloud?
What immediately came to mind is in that sort of disaster recovery, and it doesn't have to be the office burning down, it can just be the drive, failing on your server, which we've seen less of these days. And you're in a position where your whole project drive is offline and you need to recover it. Then with tape, you're sort of like, okay, well, we can recover the whole tape, because to be honest, just trying to find the subset of projects which are most urgent in your whole tape backup takes just as long as restoring it anyway. So everyone's sitting around for 6 to 8 hours while your tapes are churning away restoring that data. With cloud storage gateways and the sort of technologies that HubStore have, you can actually recover really quickly. You can say, okay, just pull down the placeholders that you need for this data. Everyone starts working and it starts pulling on demand the files that are most urgent to get people up and running again. So I see that as really quite an important distinction between the two. Tape is there and it's been a great backstop for all this time, but it's cumbersome to get even, you need one file back. You have to wait for the tape to come back from the warehouse. You put it in your tape drive. You wait while the tape trundles through it for 4 hours and pulls that one file off. And with the cloud, it's immediately available.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that, so that you have the faster RTO, probably greater agility around recovery scenarios. I think the other interesting angle is around cost, right? We were talking about this the last time that cloud probably isn't going to beat tape in terms of cost. It's going to be more expensive. If all you care about is pricing, we'll stick with tape. But yeah. I think where cloud really beats out tape is in the sort of convenience factor, and that convenience manifests in multiple areas, right? There isn't this robotic tape library that I'm in charge of. I'm not having to maintain and manage that infrastructure and the processes that it facilitates. The other angle, of course, is when you're talking long-term retention. I was talking with my wife at breakfast the other day about our family photos, and I said, when was the last time we backed this stuff up? Are you still doing that routine where I have you, taking the stuff off the hard drives and getting them onto optical and then creating another copy that we offsite to your parents' place? And yeah, I haven't done that in 4 or 5 months. And it's like, You know what? We need to get a HubStore tenant because for our own family to put all of our family records and family photos and stuff, because I'm thinking this is data that we're going to want to keep for our lifetime. So and pass down generations. And what I don't want to have to worry about every 5, 10 years, whatever it is refreshing the underlying media. So if you have a customer that has 12-year retention requirements, they're starting to stretch the lifespan of tape, are they not, for long-term retention?
Absolutely, yeah. So, and that's a really good point, because if you consider the cost differential between tape and cloud, and you think, well, the tape's quite cheap. But actually, if you look at the long-term price of cloud storage, it's going down and down and down. For tape, to keep it for 12 years, it needs to be in a properly maintained environment. So we use professional tape storage. And the cost per slot on the shelf stays the same. So you might have an LTO1 tape on there with a couple of 100 gigs, and you might have an LTO6 which has got a couple of terabytes. But actually, you're not seeing any cost savings. And one of the things we're dreading moment is pulling media from those storage, reading it in, rewriting it into more modern media to shrink the size of the data of the number of tapes we've got there, and to sort of refresh that media. And with cloud, that problem goes away, because I think the trend is going to continue, and it's already crazily cheap per gig compared to how much hard drives used to cost, and it can only surely go head on down. So that problem of long-term archive, the cost goes down and down and down with cloud, and I don't think you see that with tape if you need to store them professionally like we need to.
Yeah. I think the nice thing with the cloud too is you have things like erasure coding, which is basically, RAID on-prem, but it's, in the cloud. So you have this sort of data integrity checking that's happening, this sort of self-healing. It's redundant, right? And you just, you've essentially outsourced that whole problem of hardware refresh, right? Which I think makes a lot of sense if you're talking data that needs to be kept for a long period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make it somebody else's problem. That's what IT managers like. Yeah.
Yeah. So my last question for you then, Marcus, is your customers are contemplating the cloud. They might have some experience, maybe not. But when you're advising them, what are you telling them are some of the top things that they should be considering, evaluating, looking out for when they're looking at going to the cloud?
The first one, and sometimes they don't like it, is particularly for the size of companies that we work with. The cloud probably isn't going to save them